And we're live. Welcome, Therese, Tarlinton.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, gee, it's been almost 3 months since we first met in Melbourne at that author event.
Yes, that was such a great event. I met so many cool people at that event, like great authors, people that have become friends now, which is really good.
Yeah, same here. Same here. It was a very, very good event. What I did overhear that you said early on in your career, you used to be a bigger cheese mum. Now, what? I didn't get to hear the rest of that story. But everybody else seemed to know what a bigger cheese mum is. I was the only one who went, what's a bigger cheese mum? So please help me.
Okay, so Bega is a brand like
No, yeah,
Kraft or whatever. So Bega and cheese, obviously cheese. And so when I sold my first business, and I had very small children, and I was working out my next step. And in that transition time, I actually got cast as the bigger cheese mum. And so I was on TV commercials and point of sale and all that fun stuff.
what
And
did you,
so
yeah,
and so how it happened was actually there was a local dad, and I had a pretty okay kitchen, and he got cast to actually, or he got chosen to do the film production of the TV commercial, and he needed the kitchen, and then came to me and said, "Hey, I've got an idea. I wanted to come to you and ask you if I could use your kitchen to film in. But actually, I need a mum as well. So, do you want to stand in your kitchen and actually be the bigger cheese mum?"
that's hang on. So
That's how I got it.
so did you have aspirations of becoming an actress at that stage, or what?
Oh, look, I've always wanted to be an actress, and I didn't quite get there. I think, I've been mistaken for Toni Collette a few times. That's probably the closest that I've gotten to being an
Uh,
actress.
but
But
I watched you, speaking on stage, and I saw you there, you know, rehearsing your lines, for your
yeah.
presentation in Melbourne. That.
And I think when I was younger, I definitely would have loved to have done that. And I just, went down a uni path, like a business path, and did marketing instead. But I think that, that sense really never left me. And so all through corporate, all through my career, I've always had a really great desire to speak to large groups of people, and so I really love it. I really, really love it. And now, even as a trainer, I'm out the front. I love the spotlight. It doesn't phase me to do that. I really enjoy it. I've really been, out there, and
Yeah.
so I think that's that little actress part of me coming out. Now I get to do it as a speaker.
So just jump back to when you said you sold your online business. What was that? What was that all about?
Yes. So when I was in my 20s, so quite young, before babies, I actually had a manufacturing business. And how that came about was I was in America, and I saw a Jeep, as in Jeep the car, Jeep
Yeah.
baby stroller in Toys R Us in America. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And I was with a girlfriend who did have kids, and she was like, that is cool. That is very cool. And we went to, the company was actually in the same city. And so we, like, all guts, no glory. So I just decided to front up to this like billion-dollar company and convince them to take a chance on a young Aussie chick that could actually bring Jeep Baby to Australia. And you know what? They went for it.
Right.
So
Right.
I bought Jeep to Australia. That was like a wholesale thing. In terms of, sorry, it was as in I bought their product. And then after
Yeah.
a few years, I got a licensing agreement, and I started making my own Jeep strollers
Ah,
and selling them to different countries around the world. Which then let me do Benetton strollers. I did Oi strollers. I did other licenses, or manufactured under license for other brands in strollers. And then those kind of deals then propelled me, and I actually started importing baby products, the best-selling baby products from around the world, into retailers like Toys R Us and Big W, Target, and we even had a range in David Jones, which was super cool. And this was way before you could buy online. So it was, the proposition was really strong, and in Australia there wasn't any branded products. Bugaboo hadn't come onto the scene yet.
Okay.
So it was a really strong proposition. So I was able to do really, really well in that business as a young woman, and then as a young mum, as it went on, and let other mums have these really amazing products from all over the world.
So did you create an online presence in order to sell the products? Is that what you did?
No, so at that stage, I manufactured in factories in Asia, and I sold them into retailers like David Jones and Toys R Us.
Oh, okay.
And then, so then by the time that online was coming, obviously I started to get an online presence. By then other brands were coming into Australia. So then the European brands started coming in, more American brands started coming in. And so it really changed the landscape of
Okay.
that kind of offering.
All right. So you sold it, and then
I did. I decided that I had, I'd been through babies at home and babies at work, and my babies were then going to school. And I decided, you know what, I think it's my time to try something else. And I approached my very first customer, which was, there was a chain of baby stores in Australia called Babies Galore. And I approached the owners of Babies Galore, and I said, hey, I'm thinking that it might be my time to sell the company. And I said, do you know anyone who might want to buy my company? And they said, yeah, we'll buy it. I said, great.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you approach them to buy. That's a rather unusual thing for somebody who owns the business to approach a specific large company and say, hey.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that they knew everybody in the industry. And so it was a real opportunity to say, hey, or introduce me to somebody who might do another range or another baby product and want to actually, stack their company.
Creative.
Yeah.
So what did you do then? So now you've sold that?
Yeah. So sold that, and I've been doing a lot of consulting. So helping small businesses is my thing. I've been mentoring women in business for about 15 years. And so I did some consulting, and I have zigzagged in and out. Back after I sold the company, there was this thing called, e-commerce started to be a thing.
Yeah.
And so I went and worked with a really big e-commerce company to actually learn about how to, take that marketing knowledge and actually create it from a digital environment.
So was that quite a learning experience for you? That
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that marketing as a craft has always been a very creative craft, and the advent of digital, all of a sudden it really changed that profession, because now it was still about creativity, but it was actually around data. So it was about the acquisition of data, it was about the use of data, it was about profiling. And it was a situation where, beforehand, you would, have a team meeting or go to your boss and say, I've got this idea and this is what we're going to do. And it was subjective. So somebody could go, I don't like it, or I don't want to do that. But with digital, it really changed that environment, because all of a sudden you could say, this is, when we do this, this is the result. So when we do this email, then this percentage of people click through, this percentage of people buy. And so it took marketing into a really data-driven analytics type of environment and that was obviously all the professionals in that industry really had to change. And titles like digital marketing manager then started popping up. I mean,
But
now
yeah.
it's even gone to the extreme now. So like now digital marketing is just marketing.
So I mean, now today we have people called data scientists. I mean, you were actually doing it without knowing that you were one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember I used to work with an analyst, and that job was just around statistical data. But I would go to him as someone in marketing, and I'd say, "Where's the holes? Like, where else should we be marketing? Who are the people that are over-indexed? How can I talk to them?" And so this e-commerce company sold wine, and so we would get to the stage where we knew that if we put out an email on a Friday afternoon and actually segmented it, and so we would push like champagne to women in Perth who were over 40, then they would buy. So
Right.
you could get really specific, or on a Tuesday night, uh, men in Sydney who had a professional profession, like a lawyer, we would push them, bottles of Grange to buy and things like that. So you could start profiling and using marketing as a very data-driven discipline to actually get the results that you needed based on a customer behaviour that was marked.
But an interesting comment you mentioned earlier, you mentioned you see marketing being a craft because
Yeah.
your degree, as I remember chatting to you, is in you went to Monash, right? And you
Yes, I did.
and business administration, that was your degree, but you can learn marketing out of a textbook and the lecturer can teach you. But I was interested in your comment about a craft. Do you see it as a craft?
Yeah, absolutely. I think and I say it's a craft because I guess it changes, and you need to keep learning, and you need to keep honing and getting better at it, and looking at all the new mediums. I mean, gosh, look at all the social media channels that have popped up,
Yeah.
you know, in the last, decade, right? So you need to learn those new platforms, how they work, how to work them for your customers' expectations. And I feel like but as I said, like I love marketing because it still is creative. It still is a creative discipline, but it's now even better than it was because now you can marry your creativity with a data or a science, to make sure that it is as effective as you can possibly
But
make it.
Therese, did you find, is it like, well, I mean, you had the tools there, so people would have data analytics tool, they'd been trained to use a tool, and they were probably data scientists maybe, but they didn't have a name. Did you find that was a craft as well? Because in my own experience, working with people who use tools in data analytics and data scientists, some are very good at the tools, but they just don't have the craft. They just
Mhm.
can't see the patterns. Whereas some people go, suddenly you can
Yeah,
magically join all the dots and try stuff
yeah,
with it. And go, there you go. That's, as you put it, that's where the hole is. That's where you
yeah,
keep it.
yeah. And I think you just nailed it, Mike, in terms of so um it's like your left and right hand side of your brain, right? So these guys that I used to deal with, like super intelligent people, like really incredibly intelligent. And so if you ask them a direct question, they would give you a direct answer, a data answer. But it was
Yeah.
actually then in the storytelling and when you
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to sell more champagne, to a person who wants it. Let's look at all the demographics. Let's look at all the behavior patterns. Let's look at the transactional patterns. Let's look at, what people have been adding to cart. Let's look at all these things. And then let's look at where we're over indexed, under indexed. And so when you actually said, it was almost like a game or a puzzle where you go, I know that you've got all these pieces,
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
but
Yeah.
here's what I want you to find. I want you to find where that gap is. Like, what time should I be marketing champagne to women in Perth? Stuff like that. And when they got that, then they were like, I get it. Okay, now I understand. Okay, now I'll do it. So yeah, it was good.
So what did you do then? Because you do a lot of consulting now with SME, small to medium-sized enterprises. What led you, because you were dealing with large corporates before, what led you to work with SMEs?
I feel, I guess because I was a small business owner, quite young, and then look, I think big corporates are fantastic, right? They have amazing resources, but the best thing about big corporates is they're big, their size, right? But that's also the worst thing about them in terms of that really quick path to decision making, that being nimble. I mean, agile is like, that's a word now that we all use from a digital point of view, but agility back, a decade ago, it was, and I guess even to a certain extent now, there's still very much companies that use digital or use data, but their discipline, like a manufacturer, their discipline is still manufacturing, or their discipline might be, making food, or their business is supported by digital tools, but it is not about a digital tool. So I see immense bravery. I love the spirit of somebody who goes, I've got an idea.
An entrepreneur.
I want to do more. And so I'm like, you know what? If you are going to be brave enough to actually stand up and go with your idea, then I want to be right beside you. Because I think as a small business owner, and I've had a few businesses along the way where I've dipped in and out and started different things and sold them, and it's like 100 times harder than you think it's going to be, but it's so sweet, right? Like when those, the highs are high, the lows are low, when you can't afford to actually pay staff, or, because somebody hasn't paid you, it's annoying and it's hard. But the highs are so high because it's your idea. You made it, you backed it, you pushed it, you sweat over it, you invest all those hours and all that passion to actually help somebody else. And that's the juice, right? Like that's the addictiveness of working with small business owners.
But you find with a lot of small business owners, they have a certain skill, and they've started the business based upon this skill. And I always like to use, because I did a lot of consulting in the automotive industry with SMEs, people who make automotive components. So a fellow can actually start to pressure because he's a very good fitter and turner, and he knows about this machine, and he knows if he can put steel in here, this part will come out the other side. He's very good at that.
Yeah.
Okay? And he gets a contract to sell these to Toyota. Okay? And he's cranking along merrily, and now he can move up from this car to that car, and he can go on better holidays. But to get to the next level, okay? Because do you find it's like, well, this is what I find, in your comment, is that they go through levels. Okay, there's basically him. Okay, and then it goes 3, and then 5, and then there's like step functions where they have to like break through to get to the next level. So they maybe had a contract, as I mentioned, with Toyota, but now they want to start making these parts for Ford. How does he do it? He probably they normally get the Toyota one because he had a friend there, or he came from Toyota, okay, and did it. But he doesn't know how to market, back to marketing, himself to another one. So what's your experience? You find like if you got to have a skill set to run a business, that they've only got like 1 or 2, which help them get going.
Yeah, I think so something that I do at the moment, because I'm really passionate about it, is I'm a business connect advisor. So that is the government want to support small businesses, and so I help small businesses. And I would say, you know, like 100% of small business owners start their company because they have, you know, a great, like that example, they know how to do something, they know how to build something or do something incredibly well, or they have a big idea. Now, that doesn't mean that, so I'm a marketer. Does that mean I'm good at finance and law and logistics and HR and, and all the hats? Like, no, I mean, the hardest thing about being a small business owner, especially when you start, is you have to wear all the hats. And that might not be, well, it's definitely not comfortable, but there's some skills that just might be beyond you. And I think as humans, right, like we know what we're good at. We love doing what we're good at. And the thing that we're not good at, it takes 10 times longer. We hate every single second of it. We begrudge doing it. It's tough, right? And so that's the thing, like, and I guess that's the thing where if you can grow, and you can hire your first employee and you actually get to hire somebody that can do the stuff that you hate doing or you're not good at or you don't have that skill set to support, that's success, right? So as a small business owner, you need to mark all the success metrics, right? But one of the biggest markers of success is actually being able to hire people to do the stuff that you hate doing or you're not
right people. So Therese, how did this lead to writing the book?
Yeah.
Swap.
So yes.
Without money. How did you do that jump to write your book?
Yeah. So as I said, I've been mentoring small business owners for a long time, about 15 years. And I would do it as a mentor, so for free. And when COVID hit, I guess a lot of people reached out to me and they were saying, I'm doing it so tough, like this is tough. And I kept saying to them, you need to find other businesses who have the same customer as you and start working together with them. Like build something great for the customer. Because that's what I've always done. I'm in marketing. I guess my specialty for the last, 15, 20 years has been around strategic partnerships. So this is way before people were influencers. Like this was actually back in the late 90s, when I started working with shows like Better Homes and Gardens and getting my products on TV shows. And what are those deals? So as I said, so COVID hit, people were reaching out and I kept saying, you need to find other businesses to partner with. And I kept saying it so many times. And then one of the people that I was helping said, have you got any of this written down? And I was like, no. And I said, actually, that's a really good idea. I actually should write this down. And so that was kind of the first, I guess, spark of an idea that was actually maybe I should write it down. And then at the same time, just a friend had decided that he was going to do an MBA and he works in corporate. And I was thinking, do I want to do an MBA? Like, would I be interested in something like that? And I very quickly said, no, I think an MBA is an amazing accomplishment and tool, but I think it's a great tool if you want to progress up a ladder in corporate to like a C-suite.
I agree. It is. Yeah.
And so I felt like that wasn't something that I wanted to do. And when I thought about what would be my equivalent in my mind, what would be my equivalent of an MBA in terms of accomplishment, like doing something.
Okay.
And so I was like, and I went, actually, I would love to be an author. Like that would be something that I would love to be able to say that I am. And so between the catalyst of helping small businesses, I should write this down, my own, I guess, want or desire or success metric being, I think I would love to say that I'm an author. And so the two kind of combined or collided. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do it. So at the start of 2021, I went, I'm going to write a book. I said the words out loud to family and friends because I thought if I say it out loud, I can't chicken out.
Okay.
And
Is that what you do? Is that what you say?
No, absolutely. Like if you say it, then people ask you about it, right? And so then
Okay.
I think, so I thought, right, I'm not going to chicken out. And I've been writing in a marketing sense for a long time, but they were short articles. They weren't 40,000 words. It was 400 words. So I knew that as a professional that I could write, but I didn't know how to actually write a book. So I got a book coach. And for me, I've never even had a personal training session or any kind of one-on-one help. And so that was a big step for me to actually acknowledge that somebody might be able to help. And so Kath actually did a really great structure for me. She has been a journalist for many years and actually kind of took me through kind of who's going to read this book, who's going to benefit from this book, and what do they need to know, and then how do you actually structure a paragraph, a chapter, an outline, what is great to read, how do you engage a reader. And I loved it. I thought that was a really, really good process or template or checklist that I could actually stick to. So I wrote.
Sorry, you mentioned Kath. Which Kath were we speaking about?
Kath Walton is a book coach in Melbourne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very, very accomplished journalist for 30-something years. And she actually has Kath Walton book coaching now. So, yeah, very cool woman. And so I wrote the book in February, March, April, and May. And so it was supposed to be, about 90 days. I went a little bit longer than 90 days. And so then I was like, yes, it's done. Amazing. And then I decided, okay, I would love to reach out to some publishers. So I did. I put the manuscript together and actually put it out to some publishers. And Karen McDermott from KMD Books. I reached out to her. And actually, so Karen and I are both, or at that stage, we're both mentors for a organisation called Inspiring Rare Birds. So Inspiring Rare Birds is all about helping female entrepreneurs grow, and they have like a 9-month mentor program. And at that stage, Karen and I were both mentors. I'm still a mentor there.
Okay.
And I was speaking to Inspiring Rare Birds about doing a webinar for them. And I said, hey, yes, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to get a book deal, actually, at the moment. I've written this book. And they just said, talk to Karen because, like she might know somebody or might have some advice for you. And I said, great. So I just reached out to Karen with the ambition of actually just getting maybe a little bit of advice. And she immediately went, I love this idea. And she said, look, this is for me, for my business. It's super strong. I really believe in it. There's no one talking about this. I think this is brilliant. I'll publish your book. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Because I hadn't gone to the meeting pitching my book. I went to the meeting to kind of ask for some insight.
Yeah. So did you find it difficult to write the book, or did you find that you had you mentioned you've written a lot of articles. Was it just a matter of putting them all together and putting the glue to make sure there was a storyline through it, or did you have to start from scratch?
Great question. And so I guess all the articles I'd written had been about specific brands. So when I was writing the book, I was actually working for a big corporate, which is CSR. They do building products. So the articles that I was writing were about like how to use Gyprock or what bricks to choose, or so they weren't anything related to what I wanted to write the book about. So I think Kath. I worked with Kath to actually do, I guess, an outline I very much feel in a partnership there's a step process that you need to go through. And so we just kind of hit on that. So from a book structure, it was about this kind of 6-step process. And that came from lots of things in terms of when I would do webinars and I would talk about partnerships, I would get hundreds of questions. How do you do that? What would I offer? How do I approach people? What would I say? What's fair trade? What's a fair, swap? And so I guess I had that insight of people having loads and loads of questions about how this even worked, how you would even do this. And so I combined that with, I guess, a bit of a structure, with a bit of a skeleton of what Kath was saying to write to. And so I actually really enjoyed writing the book. Like any writer, of course, there were plenty of, because I worked full time, so I would write at night and on the weekends. And of course, there was plenty of weekends that the sun was shining, friends and family were out doing something amazing. And I'm stuck behind a keyboard, thinking, this is not right. I should be
where do you write? Do you have a special writing room, or do you? Where do you write?
It's this room. I wrote the book in this room.
Okay.
So it's so I just came down and I was really diligent about kind of getting it done. I had heard the process of actually, recording, actually just picking up your phone and speaking into your phone and just talking that through. I also think that's an excellent way to get that information out of your head if you're more that way inclined. But I literally, typed all the words. But as I said, I had, I guess, I had like an Excel spreadsheet. And so I was like, what's the big idea? How would you do that? A story to kind of illustrate that example or that point. Why it was important, any obstacles that you were going to hit. And so I kind of had an Excel template with so every tab was a chapter, and within that chapter, it might have kind of 4 key kind of points. And then within those points, there was which story was I going to tell. And so for me, that really worked in terms of this Excel spreadsheet kind of saved my bacon every single time, because then when I did sit down to write, I'd be like, okay, so you're just doing this one section in this one chapter.
Out of structure.
Yeah.
So did you find with the question, you said you got hundreds of questions coming in. Did you find from your background with data analytics, you actually looked at it and said, well, out of the 100 questions, those 20 are actually the same question. They're actually each expressing a bit differently, but it's the same. It's one question.
Yeah.
And then from that, you can have a whole bunch of questions which you could answer in the book in terms of.
Yeah. I mean, it was very much around what do I even have that I can use for partnerships? So that, again, so you're exactly right, Mike. So there's a whole heap of questions, and it's around, okay, what do I even have that I can leverage? Like what could I use? So that was one chapter was just around understanding the value that you're sitting on, that you probably have forgotten about it or don't even realize that you have. And then again, the whole next type of question was around how would I find the right partner? What is a right partner? So it was okay, well, let's talk about that. And then it was how do I approach somebody? How would I structure a deal? What would that look like? And so again, that kind of step process of very much kind of going, okay, well, here's a whole lot of questions that people are asking, and I'm gonna put them in a big round, bucket or a big round bowl of ideas. And so it's just pulling out on those ideas and explaining that process to make it really simple. And I definitely wanted it to be like a step-by-step process. So here's the first thing that you do. You need to understand the value that you're sitting on, and here's the second thing. So, well, actually, the first thing is, what even are partnerships? What are they? How do you, what is it? Because I guess some people think about partnerships in terms of, a financial partnerships. So when one company and a company like come together, right? But marketing partnerships are not that. And in fact, it's called marketing without money because most of the collaborations and brand partnerships that you do has no money changing hands. So it's about swapping the assets that you have as a company so you can both work together to create something amazing for your mutual customer.
Did you find is that with a lot of the people who may have a core competency, and often you got to ask them that question, what is their core competency? And they'll usually tell you what they do, not what their core competency is, which is
That's
somewhat
right.
different. But they may be too shy to go to the next level because they particularly now with online, you can actually hide. You're not actually out there talking to people because a lot of people don't like to talk to people. And sometimes you need to get out there, have a cup of coffee, buy them lunch or something to sell your idea.
Yeah.
What do you do with those folks? Because with the SMEs, I found that my own experience was that a lot of them were reluctant to go and do it. So when you raise it and say, well, I know Bob over there at Ford, why don't you go and talk to him? Oh, you know Bob? Yes, I do. And you leave it and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then you realize they're a bit shy, almost scared to do it, or failure of having Bob say, that's a dumb idea, go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you overcome
that? 100% right, Mike. So most people are like, I'm never doing that. That is not going to happen. Ever. I'm never doing that. The thing is, I guess as just business, as humans, not even small business owners, as humans, we always talk about experiences that we have and businesses that we love. So, I'm building a house. So then my girlfriends or friends, come to me and say, hey, do you know an electrician? Or, hey, do you know a great plumber? Or, hey, do you know, who would you say is a great interior designer? And so as a person, I say, oh, well, I dealt with this person or this person had a great experience. And then even from if you think about building that house, for example, then I would, I went to the builder. He was like, I've got, trades that I work with. So I recommend this plumber. You're like, great, no problem. So as business owners, we're already referring most of the time anyway. Like and whether you've got just say you're a publisher or just say you're a marketing company or just say you're whatever, like we all have like, oh, this is a piece of software that I love. Here is a marketing agency that I think is really great. Like we all naturally start referring business to people that we know. That's human nature. All I'm trying to do, I guess, is teach small business owners that this is, you're already doing it. You're probably already referring, the real estate agent is referring the conveyancer or someone to clean the driveway before they're open for inspection or we're already referring this.
But do you find there's much collaboration going on? Let's call it partnering amongst, let's call it broadly category, book people. And I put publishers, authors, editors in that bucket.
Yeah, no. I think it's an industry that's, where I think as authors, I think we are quite, we live in our little solos a little bit too much. But a book is, it's a great advertisement, I would say, I guess, or a profiling aid.
What you do, yeah.
We're a business, right? And so then I wrote a marketing book. So of course I now speak about marketing. I talk about marketing on podcasts. I, help small business owners. They refer me to the next person. So the book as an author, we use the book to talk to other people with an intention of of course, clearly communicating what the book is about, hopefully to get book sales, but also to actually get that next thing that we want. So I do some speaking. I would like to do a lot of speaking. And so, that's, I guess, my intention. That's what I want my next step to be.
That's the actress coming out.
Totally.
Therese. She said, "Oh, what a stage, a spotlight."
Exactly.
Okay.
Totally. You don't need to hold me back. I'm out there. I'm on the stage, straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next? Is there going to be another book? What's the next book?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely something that we the next book will come. And I think I think I've also been bitten by the bug. So I don't think that there'll be just one more book. I think that there will be many more books, because I feel like it's something that I've done it, and I liked it. I liked the process, and I have more information to share. I feel like as an author, when you get somebody that you don't know, that you've never met, buys your book and then contacts you and says, "You have changed my business."
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's like the best compliment. That's like, oh my God, makes me tear up just thinking about it. So it's like, what else can I do? So for me, I guess there's within partnerships, obviously this is a big partnerships are, a great thing. But I think there's also needs to be some knowledge around what sponsorships are. So again, back in the day when I started in marketing, sponsorship was the only way that you could get another brand to, talk about you or show your logo to their customers. Now we are all collaborating a whole lot more. And so the space of sponsorship has really changed, should have changed. So there are definitely companies that are doing this very well. And there are definitely companies who are still trying. Like, you might be a small business owner and you might want to do, and I'm talking like a small event, like maybe it might be a women in business event, and you want all the local women who have a business to actually come to your event. Now, I think traditionally we kind of go, "Hey, would you give me money and I'll put your logo, on the advertising, or I'll put your logo on the brochure." It's like boring. That is so not. We are so much better than that now. So again, I think there's another book coming, and it's actually around like how can you get sponsorship, but how can you give your sponsor assets, opportunities that they just would love and they can leverage and they can use, and so they become a sponsor every year.
Did you think that sponsorship per se has actually evolved over the time you've been in it, or do the people have to go out and let me say create that next level of requesting sponsorship? I guess you're going to talk about collaboration more than just throw money at me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, as I say, like, collaborations are when like money's not changing hands, right? It's kind of a trade. I'll give you this, you give me this, that type of feeling. So I'll write a blog, you put it on your website, and I'll do something on social for you, things like that. And so you're using the assets that you both have in your business to create something amazing for your mutual customer to gain. In a sponsorship, that's definitely where a company is saying, "I need money. There's only one way that we can work together, and that is in a sponsorship relationship, and that is because we need, $50,000 to actually put on this event, or to record a new TV, record a YouTube series, or to whatever, or to write a book, or so." And I do believe that it just hasn't really evolved. People are still showing up with a gold, silver, bronze table, with a figure at the bottom of it and saying, this is what I'll give you, which is, we're better than that. We're better than that. I think
So
as a sponsor, for someone who's been in corporate for lots of times, no, it's not a one size fits all. If you treat your sponsors like partners, that you're creating an amazing experience for them and their brand to talk to their ideal customers, then it opens up a world of possibilities for you to benefit, the brand to benefit, the sponsor, but ultimately the participants, the people who are actually showing up at the event or watching the video series, or that there's just so much more that you can do. So I'm really excited about that, because I think that's something that I know, if you go on Amazon and type in sponsorships, it's like one book.
Oh, really? Okay. So when will this book see the light of day? Have you got a time? You manifested that yet? Have you put a date to that, or told
look, I do have I definitely, I have a speaking event, and it's about sponsorships at the end of March. So my ideal would be to have a book in my hand by the end of March. Hopefully
that's
if it doesn't happen, then the manuscript will be there and the pre-sales will be launched at that event.
Okay. All right. Well, that's wonderful. Look, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. But thanks very much for coming into the studio, Therese.
Thank you, Mike. It's been such a privilege. I really appreciate your time and your interest in the book.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Cheers, Therese.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.